So you start to wonder, like, what am I if not an athlete or an athletic person? And you start, at least I started to criticize, what else did I have to give and offer? And what else was I, if not this athletic person? Which was really hard for a while. And then you start to notice the other beneficial things that you have about yourself and the qualities that make you unique beyond your physical ability and athletic ability.
Welcome to the Injured Athletes Club podcast, the show that helps athletes cope with sports injuries and bounce back stronger. I'm mental skills coach Carrie Jackson. We're sorry you're here, but we're glad you're with us.
And I'm journalist Cindy Kuzma. This week, our guest is volleyball player and registered dietitian Tatum Vedder. But before we get into the interview, we wanted to share another key resource with you. Now, as I mentioned, Tatum is a registered dietitian, and we're going to talk some about how nutrition plays a role in recovery from surgery and injuries in this episode. But if you want to go a little bit more in depth on that, we did a fantastic webinar with 4 other expert guests a couple of years ago now. And if you would like to get that recording, it's all about eating during injury recovery. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/rebound and click on extras. And you will find it there in about the second row. It's called Eating During Injury Recovery Webinar Recording. And really, a lot of the underlying principles that we cover in this interview today, you're going to hear more details from some other dietitians who have experience in this area and also who, like Tatum, have been through injuries themselves. So highly recommend that. It's fantastic. And while you're there, head to our website too, injuredathletesclub.com, and sign up for our mailing list. It's highly likely we'll do another webinar that's similar to that in the future. Also, we do other webinars on other fantastic topics. And if you're on our mailing list, you'll get a heads up about all of those. And they are free to sign up for when we first do them. And then there is a small fee for the recording afterwards. So again, buymeacoffee.com/rebound, or you can also get a link to that on our website, injuredathletesclub.com, and click on more resources.
We also want to give a very big thank you to our exclusive sponsor for this season, Lever Movement. They're the creators of the Lever System, an innovative way to reduce your body weight while exercising on a treadmill. Thank you so much, Lever, for being our Season 8 exclusive sponsor.
Yes, we are so grateful, and you'll get to hear a little bit more about Lever later on in this episode. But before that, you're going to hear the interview for this week's show. So as I mentioned, our guest this week is Tatum Vedder. She is a former collegiate volleyball player who now plays beach volleyball and surfs and hikes and does so much more. So you'll hear more about her current sporting life. She's also now a registered dietitian who specializes in helping athletes recover from injury. The name of her practice is Equilibrium Nutrition, which I think is really cool, and we'll talk some about that too. She is also a certified personal trainer, so she has a lot of expertise in everything related to fitness and nutrition. And I really appreciated Tatum talking us through, not to spoil it too much, but she had one major injury that led to several surgeries, and there were so many shifting timelines and also so many things shifting in the world because when this was happening was during COVID. So I just thought, the way that she shared her journey, and there were just a couple of key turning points in her story that, when I think back to our book Rebound and we talk about, catching the rebound, those moments when people make a decision or come to a realization that really shifts their trajectory. There's just a couple of those moments that she shares in here. And I really appreciate her kind of walking through her process on those.
Yeah, I loved her honesty too. We had a moment talking about and sort of connecting on the fact that when you're an expert in something, that there are times where we also struggle with following the protocols that we would tell our clients to do, and just kind of connecting on the fact that it really lets you know how hard some of this stuff is, and that it's part of the human experience. And so I loved that part, and I loved she I don't know if she coined this term. I'm totally going to steal it. I got to look it up because we talked about radical honesty in a recent episode, and she was talking about radical acceptance, and we had a conversation about that and what that looks like. And man, that's such a big part of being an injured athlete. Just different moments of needing to accept where you're at, and such a challenge too. So I liked that term, and I liked talking about that concept.
Yeah, for sure. Well, here is our interview with Tatum. Tatum, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us on the Injured Athletes Club.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We always say on the show, we're sorry you're here, but we're glad you're with us. And we say this because we know injury and illness can be a roller coaster with lots of ups and downs along the way. We know that you have been recovered from your major injury for a while now, but we still really want to know, Tatum, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I definitely shouldn't and don't want to complain because last night I was playing beach volleyball at sunset after so many surgeries. So doing really well. There's good days and bad days with my knee. I almost give it a different persona and a different person within me. And I work together with her. The two of us are a team. And so we have good days together. We have bad days together. But ultimately we're moving forward.
I love that. That's something we talk about in the book, and that I work on with my injured athletes when I'm coaching them is we personify their injured body part. We even give it a name. Like, it's so much fun. Mm-hmm. And like, I love that you like instinctively realize like, okay, we're in this together, my friend.
Yeah, definitely. I know. Actually, one of my friends last night, who I was playing with, I had my knee sleeve on while we were playing. Some days I use it, some days I don't. And he goes, "Is it still a problem?" Like, it'll always be a thing for me. And today we need this. So yes.
So does yours have a name, Tatum?
It doesn't have a name. And you know what just came to mind is I have friends who will give their cars names. Yeah. I've never been that person. So I don't know that at this point I will name my knee and its injury. But personality is very strong still.
And maybe we'll get into this some when we talk about the injury, but what point did that become a thing for you? Like, did you realize at a certain point that it was helpful to see it as a sort of a separate entity?
Yeah, good question. I think maybe around surgery number 3, it was kind of like, okay, this is a thing. It's got its own direction. I have to tend to it basically like a child, and started to see it as a lifelong thing too. I think at that point of like, it was an injury. I'm trying to recover from it, and noticing that it's going to be lifelong physical therapy that I embed into my week and my month. And that we're not just crossing off the boxes. There was surgery, there was PT. Here's the nutrition piece. It's kind of this ever going comprehensive care plan. And so I'd say around surgery 3 was when I unintentionally developed this persona, this caregiving role.
Super interesting. Well, we'll talk through what got you to that point. But even before we get to that story, I know you grew up very active and playing a lot of sports before kind of honing in on volleyball. And you and I had talked before, Tatum, and you mentioned to me that you had first started dealing with like maybe some chronic back pain in high school. And so I just wondered if you could talk about that or some of your other kind of earlier experiences with injury and how those affected you and how you coped with them at the time.
Yeah. I'd say earliest injury was probably, I was backpedaling to receive a football at recess in 6th grade and tripped over the bleachers and fell kind of to have my knees collapse and collide in a sideways manner. And that was an issue for, a couple of months, nothing major. And then there were multiple ankle sprains along the way. I am almost hypermobile and hyper flexible, which probably played a big role in my injury and recovery. But the lower back was quite an issue from age, 15 to up until the knee was an issue. You can see in some of my volleyball approaches that my back just arches like a C. It just has such a curve. And partly that's just poor mechanics and relying on my flexibility to give myself power. But I developed bulging discs from, I think it's L2 through S1 at that time. So there was a point where I, was kind of crawling out of bed. The pain was super severe and I had to take a little pause from volleyball. And that mended itself and that healed. But nothing, was as major or transformative as the knee injury. So I'm not discrediting, that healing process with the back, but this was a new experience to say the least. Yeah.
Well, let's get into that then. That's obviously, the major injury that kind of shaped your trajectory. Do you mind taking us back there and telling us like a little bit about where you were in your sport and your life and then what happened?
Yeah. So it was September 2019. I was going into my final year of college volleyball. The day before our season was going to get going. And I was playing in a co-ed tournament for fun. And I am an outside hitter. That was my position. Most mechanics with that position, you take off on your left leg or both legs and you land mostly on your left leg. It's just kind of the positioning. I was actually listening to the Casey Patterson episode and he actually mentioned that himself. Mm-hmm. And, I think it was a matter of time because I landed and my thigh went to the right and my lower leg went to the left and the pop was louder than it felt. Collapsed to the floor. Everyone's direction was in the way that the ball was hit from me. So no one knew what was happening for a good 2 minutes, maybe, because the ball was on the other side of the court. And I couldn't get up. I had to be carried off of the court and was thinking, this is just a sprain. I just tweaked it. I'll be okay. Maybe I'll sit out this game and the next and get back to it. That's not how it unfolded. So fast forward, tore my ACL, medial and lateral menisci, created a major defect, or I like to call it pothole, on my femur. Broke off some bone and some cartilage, all in the one injury. So that led to repairing the menisci and the ACL. We didn't truly know the extent of the bone and cartilage issue till the surgeon was in there. So when I woke up from surgery number one, I was presented with this unfortunate news of, we got to fix this in a couple months. So we're going back to another surgery. What was cool about the process was, in order to have a successful repairment of my cartilage, they took a sample of it while they were in there from surgery one. They sent it over to a lab in Denver to grow and expand, so that when it came back from surgery two, they got to transplant my own cartilage in there. So that was kind of a funny piece, keeping my hopes and spirit high from surgery 1 to 2 was, there's a piece of me growing in Colorado.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
But I wasn't healing well. I was limping everywhere I was going. The muscle atrophy was insane, just by nature of being on crutches for so long. So I went about a year until I got it checked out again, just hoping that with more PT, I would get better and the problem would go away. So it didn't. And then we did more imaging and my ACL was just kind of loose, like a hammock about to snap. So it never fully retore. It was just malfunctioning and not very helpful or useful. So surgery 3 was repairing the ACL again, a little bit of cleanup on the medial meniscus, and then same thing happened. It was limping, in pain everywhere, muscle atrophy, the mental turmoil of it all, of course. Waited another year or so, hoping again PT would be the solution. And when I had imaging before surgery 4, actually surgery 4 was just a scope to see like, what's the true extent of this? Let's make sure that we check all the boxes before we dive in and mend something. And the ACL was torn again. My medial meniscus was less than 20% remaining. And then the bone underneath the cartilage transplant was balding, basically. It was just deformative. So surgery 5 was a big one. It's like a 4-hour process. Repaired the ACL. We actually had a donor transplant for my medial meniscus. So I was almost on a little wait list timer because there's a harvesting period for that where it needs to be relatively fresh. It also needs to be a good match for you from your donor. So I got a notification from my surgeon that they found a match, and we scheduled surgery within 2 weeks from there.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a quick turnaround. Surgery went pretty well. And then PT was going well for once. It was just this incredibly different experience. I mean, it was similar, but I had this gut feeling that things actually felt right and things actually felt like it was working. I feel like in general, I have good intuition, but that was a perfect example of that. And then surgery 6, we just removed a screw. So, it's not a big one, but it's another time under the knife, another exposure to anesthesia. So, so here we are.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What a journey. And so interesting to hear like your perspective at the beginning, like, oh, this is no big deal, to like, oh, now we're on surgery 4, 5, 6. Like, when do you think it kind of sunk in for you? Like, oh, wait, this isn't going to be, was it when you woke up and you got that news that it was more severe than you thought, or did it take something else to kind of really make it feel real for you?
It was waking up, I think, from surgery 1, hearing of news of another one soon after, because the intention with surgery 1 was, I got into surgery relatively early. I was grateful for that. I know a lot of patients have to wait months just to get their MRI and then the surgery. So mine was a quick process in hopes to rehab so well that I would come back to play volleyball for my last season. Ultimately, it was COVID, so my team didn't play anyway. They didn't miss much. And I think, just experiencing the healing process from surgery 1 as well was a big wake up call. Like, this is not just another ankle sprain and, a couple weeks on crutches is not going to do it.
Right.
So you mentioned the pandemic, and that's super interesting. And I know we've talked to a number of athletes who were in like various stages of rehab at that time or medical care. What was it like to kind of be in the healing process during that time when so much was so strange?
Yeah, I am grateful that I was living with roommates in college and had a house full of people who I could lean on and ask for help for, even though that was a very hard thing for me to do. But everyone was home. So I had lots of people nearby. I had one semester crutching around campus. The second semester was able to mostly stay at home since we were doing all virtual classes at that point. So that actually was a benefit and a bonus of less crutching around campus. But I've got, flashbacks of sweating bullets in my mask at physical therapy, just so not comfortable. Your cardio gets pretty shot from being bedridden for a while. So the simplest things were taxing. So add that with a layer of a mask on you, you're huffing and puffing. And, it's all comedic at this point during the process. Not so funny.
Right. It's like a totally different experience reflecting back on it versus when you're in it. It's so interesting, the different narratives that we create around it. Tell us a little bit, you alluded to this a little bit of the challenges of asking for help. Like, I would love to hear more about that. Like maybe even some examples of moments you had to ask your roommates for help where you're like, oh, this is so uncomfortable because this topic comes up so much with our injured athletes.
Yeah, well, kind of funny side note. I had a pet bunny at the time, who was my sidekick through it all. But yeah, they're a lot of work for anyone who doesn't know. Mm-hmm. They need their hay changed and their litter changed. They have 3 types of food, et cetera, et cetera. So I couldn't do that all on crutches. I also couldn't. I'm a pretty clean person, so had to lower my standards a little bit of but I had, the boyfriend at the time really helped out with my bunny and helping with groceries. There was a time when I was making like a roasted chickpea recipe, and I think I was down to 1 crutch at that time, so I felt confident enough to do some meal prepping. Pulled the tray of chickpeas out of the oven, all over the floor. Oh, no. Ultimate defeat on that one. So had to ask for help to clean that up. But I was also working and in school. In hindsight, I'm like, gosh, I pushed myself too hard and should have just rested and recovered and focused on that. I was working at an eating disorder rehab center at the time. And so, it's a lot of mental work with the patients, but I also helped like prep the lunches and the snacks and did some of the like physical jobs that were required. So that required a lot of leaning on my coworkers and even the patients for some help, which was an uncomfortable place to be because you kind of want this like authority role, but at the same time you want to be their friend so that they can develop that rapport. And that was actually a way of developing rapport with them, was like, I'm vulnerable.
I need help.
I'm still here to show up for you guys and be here, but I kind of need you too. So that was transformative. This whole process was so beneficial in allowing me to let go of control and rely on others for help. It's still in my nature to be self-sufficient and independent, but just because I can ask for help doesn't make all those things go away about me. So definitely a good process, frustrating in the time.
Well, I know that you had said before that one of the things that resonated with you from other episodes of our show was that idea of loss of identity and uncertainty about identity. And yeah, I can imagine going from a super active collegiate athlete to someone who was asking for help so much or couldn't pick up the chickpeas off the floor was really challenging. So tell us a little bit about what that was like for you during that time.
Yeah, it was tough because on one hand, volleyball was a year-round thing, and it was my thing since age 10. So you go a good 10, 12 years of that being mostly what people knows about you. But beyond that, like I took strides in weightlifting and I dabbled in CrossFit and had a gymnastics upbringing. So I was very flexible, which just brought this other component of my athleticism beyond just volleyball. So, all of my components, as well as being a surfer, like these things just were thrown disarray. So you start to wonder, like, what am I if not an athlete or an athletic person? And you start, at least I started to criticize what else did I have to give and offer, and what else was I if not this athletic person, which was really hard for a while. And then you start to notice the other beneficial things that you have about yourself and the qualities that make you unique beyond your physical ability and athletic ability. And so I'm not the greatest artist, but developed a greater love for drawing and painting. And it's just kind of this flow state that I can get into. Feel like a decent writer. And that was another thing I could kind of tap into. But I will say I was trying to compensate for all of these limitations in my physical ability with, straight A's in school and working a lot. So I was filling up my calendar to almost distract and ignore this massive problem that I was being threatened with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense that you put energy into other parts of your identity that made you feel good, when this other part that was such a significant part of your life and a significant part of your identity felt like was gone and missing. And it's such a big thing that injured athletes struggle with.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the other thing that seems like really difficult about your story is the idea of all of those shifting timelines too. Like that idea that, okay, even beyond your initial one surgery, once you realize this is going to be a much longer thing, even after that, you kept having like shifting timelines. How did you deal with that? And did you find it like harder after some surgeries than others, like maybe even in ways that surprised you? Like, I just am curious about how all that kind of affected you as you moved along this trajectory.
Yeah. I think one piece of the timeline was knowing this was my last opportunity to play in college, and I wasn't really, trying to go beyond that. So that was a hard pill to swallow. Surgery 3, just again, going back to the intuition, felt like maybe there were pieces missing. Did we assess the whole knee? Are my other ligaments okay? Are you sure? Did you miss it? MRI? A lot of the negotiation and the doubting and whatnot. I think the grieving process, like you have alluded in the book, it just comes and goes. But I think there was also this shift now of, do I go from athlete as the identity to making my injury my identity and be overcoming it all my identity? And I mean, it is ultimately what built up my private practice, but I challenged that notion of, do I make this my next thing and all that I am consumed of? So the timeline, it's funky how it comes and goes and allows you to navigate through life.
Right.
Yeah. It's like that roller coaster, and it doesn't always like neatly align with like exactly where your physical self is that time, right? Which is interesting too.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about your practice, and I do want to kind of get into your expertise and experience as a dietitian too. So even before we talk about how that influenced you in this case, how did you first become interested in nutrition as a profession? Because that was something you were working toward before you got hurt, right?
Yeah, definitely. Very interested from the start. My parents were a little bit more nutrition forward. Dad's a retired chiropractor. They both were very active power lifters, aerobic teacher. So, had some good exposure at a young age. Then started to kind of dabble in certain diets that could potentially help with exercise performance, which backfired because then that kind of developed some disordered habits. I was actually a marine bio major initially, and was taking a GE in nutrition at the same time, and thought, oh, I like this way more, can resonate with this way more. As much as I loved my oceanography class, it was like, this is a clear answer here to shift. So I went on that path instead. And then I started working at the Eating Disorder Recovery Center, which opened a whole nother avenue of nutrition that I didn't really know much about, and ultimately found a lot of familiarity in it, and then noticed that almost every individual I know probably relate to disordered eating in some way or habits and patterns. So that just further enhanced my passion and drive to learn more about the field. But I also struggled with a lot of gastrointestinal issues from age like 14 to 21, kind of along the same timeline as the bulging discs. And was sent to doctor after doctor and GI specialist, and, would be thrown a pill or, Miralax. And I'm like, there's got to be more to it than this. So that kind of drove the intention to seek out answers beyond Western conventional medicine, which is why I kind of landed in a healthy balance between conventional and functional holistic. Like, I think they both have a role in healing. So, all the bits and pieces have cultivated the journey and what I do today.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate so much you sharing that, that connection that you notice between kind of diets for exercise performance and disordered eating is definitely something, as a journalist writing about these things and as a recreational athlete myself, I've noticed. So talk some about how your own approach to nutrition changed as you moved through your surgeries, your rehab, because you have kind of an aha moment at some point during your numerous recoveries that I think is super interesting.
Yeah, well, although I was working with eating disorder population, I think that weight loss mentality is so ingrained in all of us. And when you're an athlete and you exercise 6 days a week and you no longer can, of course, the thoughts are going to come flooding in of, oh my God, I'm going to gain weight overnight. And you kind of like lose your sensible, logical mind for a second and kind of just let that take over. Mm-hmm. So, surgeries 1 through 3, there is still this fear around weight gain and therefore restriction. And I think part of me wants to know, is that a major factor into why I didn't heal so well? But I'm not going to dwell on that or guilt trip myself over it. It's in the past. But it was also an opportunity for Surgeries 4 and onward. Like, let's take a different approach. Let's nourish to heal. Let's not feed to skate by and hope that my weight doesn't creep up, because ultimately it will fluctuate and there's really not a lot you can do about it. It's part of the process. And so trying to hone in on that mentality of, we're in healing mode. We're not in physique competition mode. Not that I have done that, but there was a shift. I think surgery 4 was the time. It was a revelation almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I think that that's such a smart mindset. And I'm guessing Coach Carey would agree, like, to not beat yourself up for the way you had done it before, but to kind of focus on the future. So what did you notice after you made that shift?
Oh, gosh. Well, even with mild restriction, you just feel this deprivation mindset and the lethargy and physical symptoms that follow of, I don't have enough energy and my sleep is being inhibited and gosh, this muscle's not building. I'm trying so hard. I'm forcing in the protein, but skipping other things. So it's funny too, when you have, education and a credential in nutrition and you still let these things seep in. Don't I know better?
I go through that all the time. We're like, oh my God, I'm an expert in this and I'm still doing it, right? It's because we're human. It's so human to do. I love that you're like so honest with it too, that it's like, I think it just goes to show, like, this is hard stuff. This is challenging. Yeah.
It is hard. And I think that's, part of the control factor in it all is we're finding a way to control your food, your weight, whatever, when you don't have control over your knee and that you can walk or not. And if you get injured in another way sometime soon. So that, it's such a complex mental web of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's so hard, like all those fears that come, I think that other piece where it's almost like, it's very common for, if you've had that in your history, if you've had disordered eating or eating disorder in your history, that it's very common for things to get triggered when you get injured. It's really common for those thoughts to come up. And so there's nothing wrong with you if they come up. It's just like, okay, what kind of support do I need right now? Because if they are, there's a good chance that they're going to come up. And how do I support myself through this moment? It's just, I love your point, Tatum, of like, it's something you're trying to at least hold on to that part of your identity of like, well, maybe this part of I can have control over this, and it keeps me connected to feeling like an athlete because I'm still, I'm taking that into consideration. But really it comes from a place of fear versus a place of love, which is what your body needs when you're healing. So I love that you're specializing in this. Like, I think it's so important, and there aren't a lot of people specializing in it.
Yeah, I know. You know what, too? I think surgery 4, now that I'm thinking about it, was almost a shift of now I'm going to nourish so well, so clean with the supplements that are just going to do me to the end. and I think surgery 5 was, no, we're going to take a balanced approach for mind and body. We're not going to just do one or the other. So it takes a while, but you finally get it. Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure the people that you work with now, like, appreciate knowing that, like, you have been through that process and you understand, not just because I think the bottom line to what you're saying too is like, and to what you always say, Coach Carrie, is like the sort of knowledge, the book knowledge, the scientific knowledge, is one thing, but the actual like physical challenge of putting it into practice and psychological challenge of putting it into practice is something else entirely. So,
totally. Yeah.
So what are the things that, you kind of coached yourself through, or like, what are the things that you do you share with the athletes that you work with on this topic, like to help them navigate? I guess we can talk about that in 2 parts, like one being sort of the physical building blocks, like what are some of the, knowing that each person is different, like what are some of the foundational things that you teach regarding nutrition during injury? And then second, like the psychological tools that can help you navigate that period.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, with physical, it's definitely comprehensive. I mean, I think, when we face injury or surgery, we want to go to what are the finite things that I can do? What are the micronutrients I can target? And those all are great and beneficial. And I think some have a lot more role in recovery than others, but shouldn't really be discredited to just truly get in enough energy and enough protein, or like the simple things. But beyond that, and beyond some of the micronutrients you can target with supplements, I think it's really important to still prioritize your sleep and your stress management. This is also a major time of gut issues and dysbiosis. So not only is it stress to the body, which almost always impacts your gut health, but you're not moving much, and you're probably pretty constipated from the painkillers and exercise. And, if you are on top of it with protein, that in itself is dehydrating. So making sure that there's a hydration strategy going on with electrolytes, because your body dumps minerals when it's stressed. Your adrenal glands dump potassium, sodium, magnesium. So making sure we replace all that. For women, covering the menstruation changes that might happen, and more so, making sure they got B vitamins to round out their hormones, but also the mental piece of that is just saying, you might miss a period. It might get wonky in this time. It's okay because it's temporary. It's going to all rebalance. But making sure they have that knowledge at least is important. And going back to sleep, I think that's also a hard piece because you're often in a brace, wrapped up with ice packs and packaging. And you kind of have to be submissive to sleeping in one position only.
Right. You're like, no, but I'm a side sleeper. Oh, nightmare.
Yeah. So I focus a lot on sleep hygiene, and again, we do all the things we can do with your bedroom environment, the light from all the electronics, at least cutting it off before bed. And then like mindful meditations and sleep practices before going to bed, because, the growth hormones produced while we're sleeping, and even for our mental sanity, like getting a good night of sleep, we all know the difference between waking up after 4 hours versus 8. So it's a comprehensive approach. I think often people just think of nutrition as food only and fluid maybe, but it all goes hand in hand. And then the mental component, I like to provide a lot of resources. So whether it's podcasts like this one or books, or I'll give them journaling prompts just to kind of keep spirits high. I'll, even have them strategize goals within or to complement the nutrition goals of what can you do for, your social circle to make this a helpful piece of your recovery? Like, who can you lean on right now? Are there even support groups that you can rely on? So giving them resources and goals within their nutrition goals are important, because it shows that it's all the pieces of the puzzle together. We're not just going to focus on protein only, although it's important.
Yeah. I love that comprehensive approach. And it seems like everything sort of builds on everything else, because obviously, like you say, sleep is very important to your mental health. And then when you're feeling like in a little bit of a more solid and rested place, it's easier to kind of be thoughtful about the other decisions that you're making too. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'd imagine too that even just like having goals, you talked about helping people set goals outside of nutrition, but I'd imagine even like having positive goals within a nutrition framework, like instead of how little can I get by on, like how many grams of protein can I get, or how can I achieve that goal, or how can I eat as many, anti-inflammatory fruits and vegetables as I can. I'd imagine that those are probably pretty motivating for people too.
Totally. Yeah. I think, the Eating Disorder Recovery Center definitely laid the foundation of how I apply my practice to others, whether or not there's some sort of issue going on with that. And I think exactly to what you said, it's like, let's focus on an add-in approach. What can we add in? What can we bring in? What can we focus on rather than restrict, avoid, minimize? And I think that alone lifts spirits and motivation for change and even adherence to the protocol and the treatment plan.
Athletes, we know you're always looking for new ways to get back to training and to prevent the next injury. We want to introduce you to a great new tool from our sponsor for this season, Lever Movement. The Lever system is an innovative way to reduce your body weight while exercising on a treadmill, which means less impact on your joints. This is perfect for coming back from an injury, or if you're healthy now, to push your limits without fear holding you back. Whether you're returning to running, looking to increase your running volume, or wanting to add some serious speed work to your routine, Lever has got you covered.
And what's even better? The Lever system is incredibly portable. It sets up on your home treadmill or at your local gym in under 2 minutes. Yes, you heard that right. Less than 2 minutes and you are ready to go. You may have seen elite athletes like Eilish McColgan and Kara Goucher using it. And now we've got an exclusive deal for you here at the Injured Athletes Club. Use the discount code TIAC20 to get 20% off your purchase. Trust me, your joints, Achilles, and sore muscles will thank you, and so will your future self.
Check out Lever today and take your training to the next level. Also, give them a follow on Instagram @Lever Movement and learn more about their products and their connection to the running community. Injured Athletes Club podcast listeners, I have something I want to share with you. These words came from an email sent to us from another podcast listener as he celebrated his 1-year milestone with a 100-mile bike ride. He says, I cannot understate how many times I have referred friends and colleagues to your book for guidance and advice after an injury. Every time someone gets injured, they ask me, how did you do it? I tell them I read your book. I told them of the lessons I learned and how they helped guide me through the process of a long and slow recovery. Everyone who has read your book after that advice has come back to me and said it was a lifesaver. If you are an injured athlete or work with injured athletes, it is time to get your hands on a copy of our book, Rebound, Train Your Mind to Bounce Back Stronger from Sports Injuries. Rebound offers a roadmap to work toward a swifter, stronger comeback using psychological tools that allow you to take control of your recovery. There are over 40 stories from injured athletes and 45 mental training drills injured athletes can use to boost motivation, resilience, and confidence as they recover from injury. Rebound is available in print, digital, and audio. Order your copy of Rebound at your favorite place to buy books today and get to work on your mental rehab.
Well, thanks for sharing all that. And we definitely appreciate having both your personal and professional expertise here, because we know that we hear these questions all the time from our athletes. So Tatum, what is sport now? It's a year, a little bit more past your last surgery, or?
It is, a year and a half since the scope surgery. It's almost 2 years on the dot from the big major one that I had. Yeah.
So what does sport look like for you now?
I am grateful to be able to play beach volleyball about once a week. That is what my knee and I have compromised on.
Conversation.
2 a week is pushing it, so 1 is good. I can surf as much as I want, though, and that's not an issue. So I am so grateful for that. I live in San Diego, too, so it's super accessible. On big, heavy days, I will feel a little threatened that my leash will tug on my knee and cause an issue. So there's kind of always something in the back of my mind. But, when I come out of the water, I am totally fine. Thank goodness. I love hiking, too. So that's still in the cards, maybe not to the extent that I did. Did the Half Dome hike probably 2 weeks leading up to my injury. So, I don't know if that is in the cards for me, but I can still hike and weightlift, and I swim for fun, bike ride. So I've got all these things that I can rely on and that I have developed a love for that goes beyond just volleyball. I have all these options that I've kind of dispersed amongst.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's great. And it's interesting that you mentioned that about surfing too. And because I was curious, like if even when you're playing beach volleyball, if you sometimes have moments of fear or a trauma response or anything like that. And if so, how you cope with that?
Oh yeah, it's still strong and present. I think as each 6-month block goes by, I get a little bit more comfortable and confident on the court or even in the water on a heavier day. I'll also kind of assess, if it is all mental, like maybe I'm coming from a stressed day in general and I just feel like everything is heightened. And so therefore I'm like, I'm going to tear my ACL. So kind of checking myself for that. Sometimes even social outings, I get a little bit scared about like going out with friends and knowing that I'll be on my knee all night long might pose a risk there. But that's also me being responsible for it and knowing that, I'm trying to take care of myself and my knee, and there might be compromises here and there. That's okay. Most of the time I do go to bed at like 9 on a weekend, but the occasional outing with the friends, that comes up with the fear and the trigger almost. So they're still present and active, but I feel them less loud as we go on.
One of the things you mentioned earlier was that that what you're going through and the nature of your injury is a little bit different than other injuries where it's like acute injury. You go through your PT, you do all your recovery exercises, you ice, you roll, whatever has been prescribed, and then you're good. And for you, it's a little different. This is like, oh no, this is, an integrated part of what I do now. And I had a similar situation, and I'm curious, how did you come to a place? Cause that's another thing that I think sometimes comes up for injured athletes is that it feels like that is extra versus that is part of like that's stuff that like they have a hard time integrating it just even for a short period of time. So what was that process like for you of accepting like, oh, this is what I do now. This is, if I want to ask my body to do these things, this is now part of it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I think, A little bit of it is influenced by the perfectionist in me is wanting to do things really well. And, was the A+ physical therapy client, that's for sure. But that radical acceptance of this is my thing for life. That was a pivotal moment. I think around surgery 3, where I just said, I could feel the difference too if I went 1 week with just doing like a functional leg workout once a week versus twice a week. And I kind of found my sweet spot of I need to do my rehab exercises twice a week to feel that physical sensation of security, rather than just going by the traditional guidelines or what someone has told me. So it's definitely grown this attunement and awareness with my mind-body connection and how I can develop and integrate a routine specific to me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. Like I've gone through many different injuries throughout my life. And an early one that I don't even really talk about in the book or anywhere is like I had a chronic back injury for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And that was one where there was an acceptance of like, oh, this is just what you do now. Like anytime before you work out, after your workout, this is part of what you need to do if you're going to ask your body to do what you're asking it to do. And I love your term because that really was it. It was a very specific moment of radical acceptance. Mm-hmm. Like, okay. Yeah. So I love that was part of your story too.
Yeah. I feel like I have to, I bring my resistance bands everywhere I go, and that will be essential warm up for anytime I'm playing or doing something pivoting, like, gotta activate my glutes to make sure that takes a load off my knees. And it's as normalized for me as bringing a water bottle too.
Right. Or brushing your teeth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe you should name your bands. That's a great idea too.
They're both pink. So
start small.
Awesome.
Well, Tatum, so that's one interesting, kind of an example of this, but I'm curious, like if you step back and look at the big picture, how would you say this whole experience has changed you as an athlete and as a person?
It's been monumental, honestly. I mean, it came at a rough, awkward time with COVID, but it helped pave the way of my career, and it was a total opportunity to work on myself and find parts of myself that I valued and could develop beyond my athleticism and whatnot. So, sometimes I'm like, well, did it need 6 surgeries to really be enough to paint a picture or get the message? Seems a little excessive, but I think with each one, I gained a lot of learning for myself. I gained a lot of knowledge to carry over to my clients. I gained a lot of connection with the people that I relied on and used for support along the way. So it's all been positive, and is also a wake up call for stressors that come to me now. It's like, okay, this is all very narrow scope. If we take a second to back up or think, if in 5 years when I look back on this, is it as detrimental as it feels right now, or is this all just kind of catastrophized? And so it's been a rocky journey, but a great journey to say the least. And days that I feel triggered or threatened or nervous of tearing something again, I think that's just part of the process to keep me going and keep me fueling this drive to stay on top of it and treat my body well and remember to take rest days and listen to it. And also, I miss feeling indestructible, but it's also a reality check that I could get hurt, and I could have another injury, and I hope that doesn't happen. But I've overcome so many. I can do it again if that happens. But knock on wood, it doesn't.
Right? Yeah.
We'll knock on some wood for you too. I think 6 surgeries is. You've received your allotted amount.
Yeah, I've done my time. Thank you.
Well, Tatum, I know so many athletes are going to get so much out of hearing your story and what you have been through and how you've shifted your perspective over time. But if you had to give other injured athletes, like I know you do all the time, a few other key pieces of advice or even some words of encouragement if they're kind of in one of the downward parts of the roller coaster at the moment, what would you say?
Oof. Yeah, that's a big one. I want to just say it's important to know that you are more than maybe what you've shown yourself to be to others, and that you can flourish in times of hardness, even if it feels like the end of the world and you want to roll on the floor and cry. But if you kind of just keep moving along by staying occupied, whether it's working on your mental self or staying busy with whatever your responsibilities are, just kind of keeping this momentum going. I think time is all relative. And so when you have things to work on and goals to focus on, that time doesn't feel so looting and slow.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. And I want to ask you where people can find you online and keep tabs with what you have going on, and also potentially reach out to you with nutrition questions. But before I even ask for those details, I'm curious, your practice is called Equilibrium Nutrition, and I wonder what the name signifies to you.
It's hand in hand between my love for the ocean and that I surf, and then also a great summary of, I think the goal for everyone is to reach a state of physical and mental balance, which is ultimately equilibrium. So what I help people do is navigate their stressors in life while prioritizing health and finding their state of equilibrium. So sometimes I'm thinking like, gosh, it's kind of a long name, but it just keeps coming back and back again of being this perfect word for my approach to nutrition and care, and that whether it's injury or pregnancy or moving, like there's so many things that just get thrown our way. So if we're able to know how to bring ourselves back to equilibrium despite all of the highs and lows, it's kind of pretty monumental, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can people find you and Equilibrium online, and how can they reach out if they have a question?
Website is equilibriumnutrition.net. I am on Instagram at Tatum_Equilibrium Nutrition. Definitely can reach out through there on questions. I'm not super active with posting, but I'm available for sure.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Tatum, thank you so much for being here and sharing all this with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thanks again to Tatum for joining us, and a great big thank you to our sponsor, Lever Movement, for making this show and this whole season of the Injured Athletes Club possible. We have been exceedingly grateful to have them as our exclusive sponsor for season 8. And I know you heard the ad with a little bit more about Lever Movement and the Lever system. If you want another great description of what Lever can do for you, go back a couple episodes to our interview with Becky Spellman. She's an elite runner and coach who talks about how Lever can help in recovery from injury and also in training when you're healthy. And then you can also, one other resource, by the way, that's available to you when you go to that buymeacoffee.com/rebound and click on extras, there is a free webinar recording there called the Injured Athletes Club Recovery Summit, the Athletes Toolkit. And on that video, you'll hear directly from the co-founder, Brad Miles of Lever Movement, and he talks even more about the system and all of the benefits and how you can use it. And by the way, don't forget that discount code if you want 20% off your purchase. That's IAC20. Also, a great big thank you at the end of this season to Jeremy Nessel, our editor, engineer, sound expert extraordinaire. He always does his very best to make us sound our very best, and we are so grateful. He's also just a terrific guy. So thank you, Jeremy, for everything. thanks so much to you, Coach Carrie, for being a fantastic co-host this season, just like every season, and for sharing all of your expertise in our Q&A episodes. I have learned so much from you, both in those episodes and your thoughtful questions and comments during our interviews. So thank you for that. And thank you, listeners out there, the injured athletes of the world. We are incredibly grateful to you for spending some time with us. We hope that this has helped you navigate some piece of your injury recovery. And remember, the show will be here. We have this is episode 155. So we'll have 154 previous ones and then one more Q&A this season. So, there's plenty for you to listen to in our time away. And also, don't forget, you can go to our website, injuredathletesclub.com, for more resources, including a link to our Injured Athletes Club support group on Facebook, where you will find us and a great big, huge support system of other injured athletes 24/7, 365 days a year, whether the podcast is in season or not. So thank you so much for joining us and for listening, and we'll see you there.